Let's talk about the incredible, invisible machine that is your body. I mean, it's not just a bunch of random parts, right? It's this perfectly tuned, self-regulating masterpiece. So today, we're going to pull back the curtain and see exactly how it all works.
I mean, really think about it for a second. You can be out for a run on a summer day or sitting in a freezing office, and somehow your internal world just stays the same. How on earth does your body pull off that incredible trick, day in and day out, without you even having to think about it?
Well, it's because it's performing this nonstop behind-the-scenes balancing act. It's like this giant symphony of tiny adjustments and corrections, all happening at once, all to keep you not just alive, but running perfectly in a world that's constantly changing.
And that secret balancing act, it has a name. It's called homeostasis. And honestly, this is one of the most important ideas in all of biology. It's the body's mission, its relentless drive, to keep everything, your temperature, your blood sugar, your oxygen levels, in this really narrow, perfect sweet spot. Because without that stability, the chemical reactions that power you would just grind to a halt. Homeostasis is what keeps us alive. So, who's in charge of this whole operation? Well, meet the conductors of the body's orchestra, the nervous system and the endocrine system. These two work together, sending messages and giving orders to make sure every single part of your body is playing in perfect harmony.
Now, they have totally different ways of communicating. The nervous system, that's like sending a text message. It's lightning fast, uses electrical signals, and is aimed at a specific target for an immediate response. You know, like when you touch a hot stove and pull your hand back instantly. The endocrine system, on the other hand, is more like sending out a mass email. It uses chemical messengers called hormones that travel through the bloodstream. It's a lot slower, but its effects are super widespread and can last for a really long time.
Let's zoom in on that text message system for a sec. The basic unit here is the neuron. You can just think of it as a tiny biological wire. You've got the dendrites, which are like the receivers that catch the signal. Then there's the cell body, which processes it. And finally, the axon, which is the transmitter that sends the message on its way. This little guy is the building block of every single thought, feeling, and action you have.
So how does the message actually travel? It's basically a three-step electrical wave. First, the neuron just sits there at its resting potential, kind of like a tiny charged battery, just waiting. Then, when a signal comes in, these little gates on its surface fly open and positive ions rush inside. This flips the charge, that's called depolarization, and creates an electrical spark that just shoots down the axon. And then, just as fast, other gates open to push those ions back out, resetting the charge. That's repolarization. The whole thing happens in a fraction of a second, so it's ready for the next signal.
But here's the catch. The neurons aren't actually touching. There's this tiny, tiny gap between them called the synapse. So to get the message across, that electrical spark triggers the release of chemical messengers, we call them neurotransmitters. They float across the gap and kickstart the electrical signal in the next neuron. It's this really crucial handoff that lets the message keep going.
Okay, so we've met our conductors. Now let's look at the orchestra itself. All the different body systems that have to work together in perfect harmony to keep that homeostatic balance we were talking about.
First up, we have the ultimate partnership, breathing and blood flow. Your respiratory system is what brings in the oxygen, but that oxygen is totally useless unless the circulatory system, your heart and your blood vessels, can deliver it to every cell. And this is a beautiful example of how structure meets function. The tiny air sacs in your lungs, the alveoli, are incredibly thin, which allows oxygen to just zip right through into your bloodstream almost instantly. Next up, the fuel line. Your digestive system is amazing at breaking down your food into its most basic fuel, stuff like glucose. But again, that glucose isn't doing any good just sitting in your stomach. It needs a delivery service, and that's the circulatory system again, which absorbs all those nutrients and transports them through the blood to power every cell in your body. You know, every factory produces waste, and your cells are no different. So the circulatory system acts like a garbage truck, picking up all the waste products from your cells. It then takes this waste-filled blood to the excretory system, where your kidneys, which are packed with millions of tiny filtering units called nephrons, clean everything up and turn that waste into urine.
And finally, how do we actually move around? Well, your skeleton provides the rigid framework, but bones can't go anywhere by themselves. The muscular system provides all the power. Your muscles contract and pull on your bones to create motion. And it's all held together by ligaments, which connect bone to bone, and cushioned by cartilage at the joints, so you're not just grinding bone on bone. It makes for a smooth ride.
All right, so we've met the players and the conductors, but what are the actual rules of the game here?
I mean, how does the body know when to speed something up or slow it down? The answer is this really cool concept called feedback loops. There are really two main types. Negative feedback is the absolute superstar of homeostasis. It's basically your body's thermostat. If things get too high, it brings them down. If they get too low, it brings them back up. The goal is always to get back to that perfect set point. Positive feedback is the total opposite. It's like a chain reaction. Its whole job is to amplify a signal and push a process forward until it's finished.
Let's look at a classic example of negative feedback, blood sugar. Say you eat a meal and your blood sugar goes up. Your pancreas senses this and releases a hormone called insulin. Insulin then tells your cells, hey, open up and absorb this sugar. As the cells take in the sugar, your blood sugar level goes back down to normal. The system just automatically corrects itself. That, right there, is homeostasis in action.
Positive feedback is way more rare, and it's used for these big, powerful events where you actually need to push away from balance for a little while. Childbirth is the perfect example. A small contraction triggers hormones that cause an even bigger one, which causes an even bigger one, amplifying the signal until the baby is born. Blood clotting is another one. The goal isn't stability, it's a rapid, powerful finish.
So to wrap things up, let's see all these rules in action with one of the most important balancing acts of all, maintaining our body temperature. We call this thermoregulation.
Animals basically do this in two main ways. You've got ectotherms, like this lizard. We often call them cold-blooded. They get their heat from the outside world, basking in the sun, sitting on a warm rock. Then there are endotherms, like us. We're warm-blooded. We generate our own heat from the inside through our metabolism. The big trade-off? It costs a ton of energy. That's why we have to eat so much more than a lizard of the same size. We're basically walking furnaces.
You know, this whole idea isn't new. Over 150 years ago, a physiologist named Claude Bernard put it perfectly. He knew that to survive in this totally chaotic world, the internal world of a living thing has to be stable. That constant fight for stability, that is the very definition of being alive.
So, from that lightning-fast spark of a neuron to the slow and steady release of a hormone, from the incredible teamwork of your lungs and your heart to the feedback loops that keep you perfectly in balance, it's all part of this one, single, incredibly elegant dance of self-regulation. A true masterpiece of coordination.
And that kind of leaves us with one last thought. If this perfectly balanced orchestra is the definition of health, what happens when just one system, one hormone, one signal goes wrong? What happens when a single instrument starts to play out of tune?